former undisputed middleweight champ, Ring Magazine champ, lineal light heavyweight champion at 46 record, the man, BHop, the executioner, the alien. Bernard Hopkins is entering the chat, ladies and gentlemen.
BHop.
You talk about a legend.
We got his assistant.
No problem.
Yeah, you talk about a legend. I think he's one of the guys that you're gonna, when you talk about him, it's a never-ending conversation. What's up, Miss Joy?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Mr. Hopkins is coming to join you guys.
Awesome. We're ready whenever he is.
Okay.
Yeah. We ain't gonna take too much of his time.
Yeah, that is there are levels to legend status in boxing, and BHop is he's up there. He's up there in the high legend status.
You know what? When you because a lot of these fighters, I'm talk to him about BHop.
What's up?
Listen, man, I ain't talked to you in a minute. I'm going through my phone. I said, you know what? Let me just give him a text real quick.
I appreciate you.
Listen, before I could put my phone down, you got right back at me. You made me feel good, man. It's good to see you. Good to hear from you.
It's all respect, man. Respect, man.
Yes,
How Pop's doing? Pop's doing all right? You good?
My dad is good. He would hate me right now if I call him Pops like you. I think you about you. I'm not.
He'll get me too, but I'm on a Zoom. He can't find me too fast.
There you go. Yep. So I wasn't able to invite him in on this one because room and all that. But listen, man, we just want to chop it up with you real quick. But my guy right there, Carson Merk, with his hand on it.
What's up, Carl?
What's up, BHop?
He says that when you talk about legends and legacy in the game, there's even now, there's levels to this boxing game. There's levels the whole way. But even once you retire and you consider yourself to be a legend and you have a legacy, there's even levels within the legacy right there. And I think that you are second to maybe Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. Like you're right there in terms of having an unbelievable legacy and have done amazing things in boxing. Was that the goal? Like, did you see that coming?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm very appreciative and also honored to be in a conversation of the two names that you just mentioned, because it come with really just true to the game and dedicated to the game, and the ups and downs, the losses, the wins, the draws. In my case, I had a couple of no contests, believe it or not. But yes, it was my goal. And you know what, Shawn? It was my goal prior to my early life of tug of war between, continue to be a street guy or continue to be, in with the neighborhood or with the area it's about. I represented that proudly and well at that time. Yeah. And to focus that energy to this legacy and this legendary status and conversations as I talk to people because of the Hall of Fame house mansion that I entered this year. Yeah. I'm starting to reflect a little bit more than I normally do and say to myself that, from day one out of the penitentiary in 1988, I started amateur boxing, 9, 10 years old, through uncles on both sides of the family who represented Philadelphia on a local level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shawn, I made sure that I was going to be one day having this conversation with whoever it was going to be in this. You at 2020. Yeah. You, Showtime Porter. Yeah. There's no accident in anything that I've done. I really mean that. And you know what, Shawn, I talk so much. When I say talk so much, I'm confident to talk so much before I did things. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty gutsy to be able to talk to an existence
I actually made.
What you going to do?
I made up my mind that I wouldn't do that, just in case. And a lot of people don't understand the just in case. You threw the just in case out the window when you said that doesn't matter. That don't matter to me.
Because I felt that, correct. I felt, Shawn, that I beat the most toughest odds of my experience. You know, I never had, you know, God, you know, blessed me with never had no disease that you know can wipe you out. I never had to face any challenges like that. It was more of adversity of adolescence. Okay. But man, I was determined not to be wild 41, 45. And that was my name, like your jail name. That's your jail number. I'll never forget that number. I'll forget my social before I forget that number. and I say that to be like, yo, like that's something that's going to be embedded in my head as much as I try to not remember it. But let me tell you, it's part of my legacy. It's part of my life. It's part of my journey. And you know what, Shawn, I know you can relate to this. Part of our journey is not all made up on what we want it to be. Yep. It's a life, man. It's going through the swamp. It's going through the hills. It's going through the greenery of grass. It's going through the ashes of others who try to go that way, walk that fire, you know, whether it's your opponent or whether it's, you know, life in general, whether things ain't going right in the business on your end as a professional fighter. And you're doing everything that you're supposed to do.
Trying to.
These, you know just as well as I know, these are the things that build character. Yep. It builds character, whether it's wrong or right, and that's what life is about. And that's why I take to the young youth in Philadelphia and anywhere I lay my head and travel, far as different places and cities and stuff. And, you know, they just want to hear my story. And you know what? Most of it ain't even boxing, to be honest with you. I know it might surprise some through y'all, but look, it's about like, yo, how do you do that, B? How do you come home in a city, a big city like Philadelphia in the 80s and not get caught up in the game? And then come out and walk off 9 years of parole where you could have gave up after your first defeat as a 4-rounder at the Blue Horizon.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, and now it's 89. You know, it's 89 now. The year flipped over to 89 and 90. Sure, 91, I said, man, I'm going back to boxing. Because them streets was rough, man. I had about 2 or 3 close calls. I was like, hold up. I said, let me try boxing again. Yeah. And I was encouraged, man, by a guy named Butch, man. He was like, yo, come in the gym. He said, you ain't going to come tomorrow, man. We had a little simple bet. I came. Yeah. Then I came the next day. Then we had a contest. Hold up. We had a contest when I got with Bowie Fisher. Bowie said, yo, you come to the gym, I'll come to the gym. But I guarantee you, you're going to miss more days than me. Yeah. Next thing you know, 10, 15 years went by. Mm-hmm. My dad did. We forgot about the bet, but we didn't forget about the honor. That, you know, we didn't forget about that. Exactly. And my dad did the same thing. You know, he had guys that were in the streets, but talented. And the only way he can keep those guys into the gym was, hey, I'll bet you won't come back. I bet you I'll run you out of here. I bet you can't win this time. He was always putting other challenges in front of these kids' faces so that their eyes were closed to the streets and you could keep them focused, you know? So, I mean, I'm going to let my guys jump in, but it's the Porterweight podcast. And everything that you said right there exemplifies what the Porterweight podcast, what the Porterweight is. I'm not surprised. It's real. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised, man. I'm glad to hear from you today. Go ahead, Carson. No, BHop, you had one of the most random, greatest quotes I've ever heard at a weigh-in. They were interviewing Shawn, and you just popped in, so you were a fan of Shawn, and you said, mentally, the fight is won. Physically, the fight is completed. And I was like, I've never even said something that prolific, and you just happened to drop a little gem in there. But you've been dropping gems for years. So you mentioned kind of reflecting a little bit more than you typically would. Looking back on your career, which felt like it was 200 years, I'm sure it did for you as well. What are some of the moments in the fights that kind of stick out the most to you looking back? Ooh. Quito, Ecuador, Segundo Mercado, 1995, in Ecuador, as I just said, in the city of the capital called Quito. Man, I got knocked down twice, Shawn, everyone. I got knocked down twice in the 12-round IBF championship fight and got a draw in Ecuador fighting the Ecuadorian.
What?
so hold up. I mean, there was a close because I came back and I got knocked him down. They didn't give it to me, but I buzzed him. I fought. The point is this: I fought so hard. Yeah. From the 7th to the 12th round. Yeah. Where other than knocking him out or knocking him down, I fought so hard and won so many rounds that was still left in the 12-round fight where I got a draw. That's a win, Shawn. Yeah. I'm in the third world country. Listen, y'all, I'm in the third world country and I get a draw. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah.
but that was on that, and I got a lot of them. You know, fortunately, I got a lot of them that I can talk about. That one I remember because I remember nobody was giving us. Look, it was a Don King promotion. I was a mandatory, right? He had the contender behind me. And no, he was the number 2 contender. I was number 1 contender. We had to fight for the vacant title, the IBF. So nobody was helping us. You know, you got to go in there and any fighter that's listening can understand. Like I had to go in there like ain't nobody on my side. Like I'm in another country and this ain't my promoter. He won the purse bid. You know, those purse bids can be tricky. So I had to dance with everybody that was involved. Even though they was against me, and then go to Ecuador and get knocked down twice, 11,000 feet above sea level, couldn't even breathe. I got there 3 days before the fight. Check it up and do your homework after this is over with. Yeah. They got me there 3 days before the fight. That was a completely ambush to get me, out of there. They didn't think I was going to. If he survived 7 rounds without passing out because of the altitude, like this will make Colorado Springs and anything up Denver with the amateurs back in the day be like nothing, man. Yeah. And that wasn't no joke up there in Mile High Stadium.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because I mentioned Mile High, it's called a guy named, what was his name? Baptiste. This guy named, was on USA Tuesday Night Fights. And I fought in Denver, Colorado. I'll never forget it. And Gilbert Baptiste, his name was. Whew. USA Tuesday Night Fights. Now, of course, you got the Trinidad, the super fights of mine, the Trinidad, the De La Hoyas, Antoine Eccles. I don't know if you remember him, Shawn.
Yeah.
Listen, Robert Allen. I can name Robert Allen. I fought him. These guys I fought 3 times. Yeah. When I beat them the first time, they became mandatory again. I said, well, they must ain't believe the first fight. Yeah. Because I had like 3 mandatories, man, with 3 different fighters in my career. Now, you can say that I might have stayed in there long. I was in there 28 years. So, Bernard, everybody recycled back. Yeah. They recycled back to being number 1 and number 2 again. Yeah. But you know what, Shawn, though? It's a thing where I can sit back now and preparing real strong in 21 until it's over with, which would be, I say, about another year or so, putting together all my my achievements, my failures, personal and sports. They all together, business, how, I took on saying I'm going to be not only just on paper, but manage myself for 90% of my career. If you look at my career, I retire in the category of manager, Bernard Hopkins. Oh, wow. And I was proud of that. And I don't want to change the conversation about, because I do have one more fight that I got to mention, but that was really something that I was really proud of, being at the Hall of Fame in Vegas, because we did get that Hall of Fame in of this year in Vegas. Yep. And they asked me what was my proudest moment. And I said, well, I got a lot of them in the ring and breaking records and setting records. But I said, there's only 2 fighters in the history of boxing that wore the title of managing themselves, but behind the scenes, it was their choice whether they take the fight or not take the fight. I had a lot of help. I had people that advised me by salary, not by percentage.
Right.
I'm kicking knowledge now.
Yes, sir.
So once I learned the business from the foreign sales, the rebroadcasting money, the hits that you can get from that, and now this stuff come long term. This stuff come when your kids are growing, right? I want to tap into that type of wealth where when your career is over with, 10, 15 years, and you become, as you said earlier in this podcast, a legend, somebody that people respect, a lot of people respect, a young, old, and in the middle, then that brand is no different than Michael Jordan's. That brand is no different than LeBron while he's playing and when he retired. That brand that you have, Shawn Showtime Porter, is the brand that your kids should inherit, but they must inherit it with knowledge. And I wanted to get knowledge how boxing is ran from the business point of view. And I was told that you need to concentrate on boxing because doing both is going to interfere with your game. Now, it could for most people, Shawn, but I had to go ahead and make sure that I did carve time out and say, let me deal with the business side and learn some of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of them was one of my biggest fights outside the ring. That's the point I'm making. A lot of that business stuff in boxing was one of the biggest fights. Yeah. But there's some fights I mentioned to you earlier. They was fights that never got really credit because they never really became champions because of me. Look, Shawn, it's people that it's not going to become champion, and I blame you for that. That's a good thing, Shawn. It's a good thing because you could have been on the other end of that. So I said that to get right back to what I just said just now. You kept a lot of people from being world champion, but that's the game we played because either them or who? Either them or who?
Me. You gotta be greedy.
Bingo.
Gotta be greedy.
Gotta be greedy. Gotta be selfish. If you want to be one of the greats, right? If you want to be a belt, then be half nice, right? They got belt. There's a lot of belts out there, right? Right. But if you want to be great, that's number one. Everything else is number two.
That's true.
Mr. Hopkins, you probably got the most interesting, craziest, intense, from nothing to something story in boxing. One of the best. Can we get a biopic? Can we get one, man? Your story is incredible.
I would love to. On the air, as I'm talking to you, as you talk to my guy, Shawn, his family, I respect him. When I first met him, I respect him now. I'm ready, man. I'm ready to put the story out, but I'm ready to do it strategically. I'm ready to do it professionally. And you know what? Not too much of the passionate, even though I don't mind passionate when it's needed, but I wanted to be raw. I wanted people to be like, yo, like, I thought Michael Jordan documentary was unbelievable, but this twist and turns of Brenagh Hopkins being stabbed in his teenage years twice, you know, it wasn't supposed to be nowhere near where I finished as a athlete, as a recognizable figure in sports, period. I mean, come on, man. Like, yo, like, I'm not saying there's no stories out there. Everyone on this podcast have a story. Everyone in the world has a story. Whatever story define you, who you are and your character is just as important as anybody else's. My story was, long as there's a hood in boxing, long as there's a hood in America, boxing would never die. We might go through a recession. We might go through a period of, I'm gonna watch this because this fight ain't being made. I was watching your last podcast. Some fights need to be made. They need to be made. but the thing is, y'all, listen, everybody has a story. I want mine to get out there, not to just be another one. I want it to be some reaction from all people. It's like, yo, I'm not giving up because BHop didn't give it up. This man lost his first fight. Yeah. He took off 89 and 90. Look at his record. He came back and he went 26 years, ended with 27 years after that. Come on, man. This ain't an accident.
Yeah.
This ain't an accident because I have a consistency written across my name. If you go in the dictionary, give me about a week, you will see Brenagh Hopkins' name on On the word consistent.
Yeah.
I'm very consistent.
Listen, man, I'm gonna go ahead and tell a quick story. I'm in New York, just going to a fight, and my whole thing at that point in time was I'm gonna always work out no matter where I go. Hit the gym in the morning and then go to the fights and just chill out, all that kind of stuff. And in my mind, I'm working hard because I know like the other guys that I'm looking at ain't doing it. And so I'm feeling good going into the gym room because I know ain't nobody else gonna be in there. And man, I opened up the door and you already on the treadmill. I'm like, I said, BHop, what you doing in here? You say, hey man, I got to keep working. And I don't know what year that was, but that's something that I will never forget because you, even at that point in time, you were still fighting, but you weren't fighting consistently and things like that. But you understood that this is a lifestyle. This is a way of life. And it does not stop just because I'm not fighting. And that's something that my dad really harps on me basically daily. And right here, just on my podcast, I have another man, another legend, amazing man who exemplifies what it means to work hard, stay focused, and be diligent and live something that is really real. And that's just who you are. You know, I think your story definitely needs to be told because people don't know enough of who you are and what you could bring to this world just from your story. Your story alone would change lives around this world, not just in Philly, not just in Cincinnati or Cleveland, but around this world. It's amazing.
And you know what, Shawn, I respect that and definitely agree because the people that do finally, like when they hear certain things that they didn't know or they was unaware of, yo, they be so shocked. They be like, yo, you did time in prison? I'm like, damn, I gotta leave your house now? You know what I mean? I'm talking business, you know, I got a lot of stuff going on that's positive in the city of Philadelphia. And it seemed that sometimes it's funny. It's never like I'm mad or arguing, like anything like I feel ashamed of. Right. Even though I don't boast it, I just say, yeah, they Google you up and they see certain things. But when they start hearing, you mean you did 5 years in the penitentiary? Oh my God, how old were you? So, you know, it's like I boxed so long, Shawn. You know, I boxed so long in 3 decades, man. That's a long time. They forget. It's like that other Bernard, that nickname Heads on the street, that's like buried, right? But it is buried in a way, but it has to be in my psyche of telling my story correctly. Yep. It's part of my travels, y'all. It's part of, and we all have something that we can, like, you know, we can turn the page back. But I believe without that, I wouldn't be on this podcast right now. And I know that sound kind of like, you know, like kind of bold or whatever, but it's straight up. I'm giving it straight up, being real, because without that struggle that I recognize,
I'm gonna ask you 3 questions real quick.
We wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be here. No, I wouldn't be here right now.
I mean, I got a story too, you know, so I get what you're saying, you know, and I'm sure everybody listening to. I got 3 questions I want to ask you real quick. A couple questions that we got from the fans that are listening or two from the fans that are listening, and then one that I got for you. But the first one, people want to know how close you came to fighting James Toney.
Very close, within weeks. Contracts broke through. Yeah, within weeks. It was like, it was done. I was just waiting to sign off. And me and James Toney made the front. Listen, they had us on the front cover of the Ring magazine. I kept it too because they become like, you know, classics because it never happened. But that fight was something that I definitely wanted because James Toney was, to me, was one of the hardest guys to hit. And it never happened, man. And like I said, we made the front cover, never no press conference. They didn't get to that deep, but we made the covers on just about all top magazines.
Wow. Somebody else wants to know, do you have a most memorable round of boxing?
The most memorable round in boxing was when I'm in the corner, my corner, I'm tell you what fight it was, matter of fact. The Joe Lipsy fight. It was on the ABC under the Mike Tyson undercard. I fought under Mike Tyson undercard about 4 times in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I fight a guy named Joe Lipsy. They call him the Sludge Hammer.
Oh, Lipsy.
And puncher from Detroit or outside of Detroit, Michigan, somewhere around it. But I tell you, he was a strong boy, undefeated. I wasn't supposed to beat this dude. Yeah. I hit him with an uppercut coming in, and I act like I was backing up, took a step back, half a step back. It was a beautiful shot. ABC, you can say it, the show is Shawn is one of my, and this fight is early in my career. I think of like 13 fights. And he never boxed again. So that was one of the fights. Yeah, Joe Lipsy never, and that was the first loss he had. He was like 25-0 with 22 knockouts. He was a puncher, fire plug. They call him Joe the Sludge Hammer Lipsy. Never heard from him. This 20-something years ago. Wow.
Dang. Let me ask you, and then we'll probably let you go unless you want to stay on. But I want to know what you got Ryan Garcia getting up in the ring with Luke Campbell next year. No secret that you guys don't have Canelo anymore. What's 21 looking like for Golden Boy?
I think 21 is looking like Ryan Garcia has to kick it off on the 2nd. I will be flying out Thursday. Yes, I will spend my New Year's in Texas. So, because Franchon Cruz, who I brought to the promotion team, has 2 titles. She's from Maryland, but I'm coming out there to support everybody. But I'm definitely got to come out there and support her. She's African-American sister that has a lot of flair to her. You probably watch her. You probably follow her. She's one of the movements, if not the movement, of women boxing. Yeah. But, rebuild, Porter. It's about rebuilding. And it's not like losing a fighter with a lucrative contract as Canelo. I respect Canelo's decision. I'm for fighters that represent themselves and honest in their delivery of things of their career and their life. Like I said to Canelo, and I also put out there in a press release, Joe Santaguino, if you want to go to it, because I like backing my stuff up when I say things. Joe Santaguino writes for Ring Magazine, and he's been around for 20-something years. And he called me the next day, and he asked, similar in the way you just asked, he said, Brenagh, what's going to happen now? What's going on? I said, well, look, the rebuilding stage in any promoter company is always in the back of a promoter's mind. Yeah. One fighter shouldn't define you. Mm-hmm. I love Canelo. Mm-hmm. If I can turn the clock back and do something to make it right in a minute. Mm-hmm. But one fighter don't define a promoter of our magnitude and the magnitude of other promoters that's been there for 30, 40, 50 years. Yeah. Because remember this, the fighter must look out for himself, his family, and anything else that he wants to be responsible for. Mm-hmm. Promoters also have to do what they have to do for their fighters and the promotional. Mm-hmm. If that clash by any means, then you must have a divorce. And hopefully that divorce ain't inexpensive. Yeah. Yeah. Like most business and relationship divorces could be. So I look at it like this. Canelo's going to do great things, whether he's with Golden Boy or not, because he has it in him. He can't help himself. Porter, you the same damn way, man. I'm the same way. But I also understand business and understand both sides. I've been on both sides. I represent both sides. I think nobody can deny that of as vocal as I've been in my career. You can gain a lot of naysayers and, of course, enemies, but that comes with the territory. Nobody said it was going to be easy. You got to continue to move on, continue to build the fighters that we have, and there's a lot of them under there, under the banner. And they're now chopping at the bit, Porter, because guess what? The fighters ain't crying, know what they're saying? I want to be in that spot. Listen with this motivation. See, I always look at things from a scope, not from a box. Yeah. If I'm under Golden Boy as a fighter, Mexican or not, You know what I'm saying? I want to shine out everybody that's on the roster.
Yeah.
Anybody that's on the undercard, even if I'm on the undercard, anybody that's on the card January 2nd, I'm going to make sure I shine because I want to be in Canelo's position. So it ain't always got to be a bust, but you got to lick your wounds. Yeah. You got to refocus. If you haven't done it by now, and it's only been a couple of weeks, then you already a year behind. 21 is already in. Most of the calendar of January and February and some March is already filled with boxing, and you probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Knowing you and your dad, you working on something because you plan ahead. Yeah. So my thing is, one promoter can't stop boxing and one fighter can't stop boxing. People are going to watch good fights. Right. And speaking of good fights is, I was watching your comments and also on your podcast, and you was talking about certain fights. Can I mention these 3 or 4 fights I want to see?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. You have, of course, Garcia and his fight coming up January 2nd. I want to see AJ. I want to see Joshua fight
Tyson Fury. I also want to see in the welterweight Crawford take on Spence. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And to throw another one in there, let me see. I want to see Porter. Right? No, seriously. I want to see Porter get a shot at one of the champions and top guys in his weight division.
Yeah.
Like I want to see you back in that mix again because you always will be dangerous based on your hustle, based on your unorthodox style. That I always tell people, when I watch Shawn Porter, I think a lot about a fighter that nobody can time his style. And when he did, it was too late. And that was Aaron Pryor. No. Hold up. That was, Aaron Pryor fighting Alexis Arguello.
I had a feeling you was going to say Aaron Pryor. And that would be...
When I see that, and listen, Porter, I said this many times on other interviews, you can't teach a person to be unorthodox. You can't teach a person to fight that way or to be certain stance. That got to be natural, man. That's just you. Mm-hmm. Anybody else will get their ass whooped, right? Or they be looking like they street fighting. But you know how to control and take it in where you get them both. You give them that and some, and that's what make you dangerous to anybody out there. And listen, it ain't patronizing, it's telling the truth. And anybody out there hear this will echo the same thing I'm saying. So enjoy your career because it do go fast.
Yeah.
And continue to show that for some who want to do it, can represent our sport the way you're representing, not only on your core, your fashion, Andre Ward, the same way the guys coming, they they're doing what they have to do, they saying the right things, and they representing boxing and making other fighters not gun shy of saying, you know what, I want to get into talking about boxing and educating people that don't know. And you're doing a hell of a job doing that, man. So I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention. And then when did you hire my stylist, man?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. Nah.
Somebody, listen, man. That's too close. That's too close to the stuff about my closet.
I feel like I seen you in something like this before.
Hey, listen, that's them colors is too close to something in my closet right now. You know what, Shawn? I had to go and look in the closet and see if my suit was missing.
You guys right here, they give me a lot of shit.
Oh man,
not wear. But you understand now. Y'all understand why I keep it going, because he say something right now. Now y'all got a whole other year of this, all because of BHop. Yeah, I got a whole other.
Oh, yeah, Shawn. So you said I did you a hell of a favor just now, didn't I?
Hey,
representation. Listen, representation get you in the door. Your performance keep you in the door.
Now you told me that before. I've never forgotten that. Yep. You told me that before.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We love you, man. Hey, congratulations on your Hall of Fame, and we'll talk to you later. All right.
Thank you. It's good to be a Hall of Fame and not a Hall of Shame.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, BHop.
man, take care.
Don't tell me you didn't enjoy what you saw, because I know you did. What you need to do now, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit that notification button. Check us out every week, every Tuesday, something new for you right here on the Porter Way Podcast.